Hi everyone, it's Kaleem Joy. This is Natural Childbirth 101 and I'm Kaleem Joy. I'm a licensed midwife, a certified pediatric massage therapist, and a certified professional midwife. And I'm so excited to talk to you tonight. It's a night that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I really enjoy postpartum. And knowing that, when families start out and they find out that they're pregnant, you start out with that grandiose, you've gotten a positive pregnancy test, maybe you were planning to get pregnant, maybe you weren't, and you are, starting to have that excitement and you're going along, and then you start thinking, well, what about this and what about that, and oh my goodness, and won't this be exciting, and oh, what do we have to do about that, and for the person who's pregnant versus the partner, there's always different things that they're thinking about, everything from how will I pay for the tennis shoes and the college to what's going to change with work. And how will I integrate, my other children? And so from the time that you find out that you're pregnant, there's a transition and things start to change. I'm coming to you live from Florida, which it's 10 o'clock my time. Not sure if any of you are on my time zone or not, but the rest of you Pacific Standard Time, it should be 7 o'clock. So on postpartum tonight, I want to pose a question to you first, and I want you to think about that question. If you were the baby in the tummy, what would you want your postpartum to be like? From the very moment you were born, what would you want those first 3 hours to be like for you? Think about that for a moment. You've come from this beautiful, warm womb that's kind of a reddish yellow, purplish glow. The placenta is very much a reddish purple. It's soft. It has that beautiful whoosh, whoosh sound. And you're being swayed and carried all day. Food comes to you easily. You move around in this beautiful water world. And then you get this major hug into the world, right? This major hug that just turns on your entire neurosystem. Your body extends and moves for the first time, and you come out into the world where there's an immense amount of space. And there are really not the same boundaries that you had inside the womb. Noises are louder. Your parent is breathing heavily because of being able to push you into the world. And there you are as that baby. What would you have wanted at those first 3 hours, for those first 3 minutes, into the first 30 minutes, into the first 3 hours? And think about what that would be like. And then as the birth giver, as that person giving birth, what is it that in those first 3 minutes, those first 30 minutes, those first 3 hours would you want to create if you could have that perfect picture? So think about those questions as we start going through this, all right? And then on into the first 3 days. There is so much change that occurs when birth happens, not only in our lives, but in our bodies and in our emotions, in our family, in our homes, in our jobs, in how our body works. As you're going through pregnancy, your heart is accommodating for having the extra weight in your body of the baby and the placenta, having the extra blood volume that it's having to pump. Your blood vessels have relaxed in order to accommodate that. Your liver's working more, your kidneys are working more. Your hormones, your chemicals in your neural system are working differently. And when that baby is born, there's a huge transition that happens for you as the person giving birth, for the partner, being part of that and holding that space and being there and welcoming that new baby, as well as for the baby. So there's an amazing transition that's happening in those first 3 minutes, in those first 30, in those first 3 hours. You as the person giving birth, your body has let go of a beautiful human being. Isn't that just phenomenal to think that a human being can come out of your body? I mean, to me, that's just amazing. And as this baby comes out, this whole transition happens in that brain to want to care for that child. There's also that pause time, and many of you who maybe have had other babies, maybe it happened with your first. There's that moment where either that baby gets plopped up on you, or maybe is held out, or maybe the baby came out between your legs, where you just want to take a moment to take a breath. You want that baby in your arms as long as it's okay. You want to take a breath. You just need a moment to catch your breath, to catch up with the fact that you've just birthed this human into this world. Some of you may have just wanted to envelop that baby in your eyes and your smells and your touch and everything that was going on. And as a baby, the baby is coming into just awakening into being touched, and gravity and temperature and air into their lungs, and going through all of the transitions of their heart and their kidneys and their lungs and everything that's going on. So those first 3 minutes, those first 30, those first 3 hours, there's an immense amount of transition and change that's happening. Your uterus has now gone from having a full-size baby, whether that's a 6-pound or a 10-pound baby, and it's now shrinking down to the size of a melon. And that melon is now, all of those muscle fibers are clamping down because they know to keep you safe, in order to clamp off all the blood vessels that have been feeding that placenta in there, clamping those down. Your body is, as it lets go of the placenta, even your heat, how warm you stay, changes, and you get that little shakiness, one from the change in the hormones, but two from the change in what was keeping you warm. And now you have that kind of chill for the first 5 or 10 minutes till your body begins to adapt. And the baby is going through transitioning, changing all of its glucose patterns, everything that's going on. But one of the things that's happening on a physical is instinctualness. Because if no one was there when your baby was born except you and your baby, maybe your partner, what would you do? I don't care where you plan to give birth or who your care providers are, but if no one was there, what would you do? You would look at your baby. You would explore them. You would want to know about their hands and their feet and their toes. You would start looking at their ears, their eyes, their head, feeling their skin. We know this, that when birth givers are left to do what instincts tell them to do, not what they've done in the past or what they think they should do or what somebody taught them to do, but what their instincts will do is usually begin by tracing the baby and learning about the baby, and then wanting to pick the baby up and put the baby in their arms. So we know that all of this neurological programming is in you instinctively to want to nurture, protect, hold, explore, love, smell, even taste these babies. These babies want to do the same thing. Their instinct inside them is telling them that they need to gather themselves, get their breathing under control, get their heart working right, and then they know instinctively that they want to hunt, right? They want to hunt to latch. They want to hunt to latch because they know that's where they're going to be warm, they're going to be safe, that's where neurologically everything turns on, their head bones reopen and reshape, and you and the baby stay helping each other to stay safe in so many ways. But on an emotional level, it's what the baby needs. Now, I don't care whether you've had a home birth that was completely uninterventive, a water birth, a birth center birth, a hospital birth, even a cesarean. You and the baby still have these same instincts. Sometimes, because there's been interruptions, they get interrupted. And you can sometimes feel out of sync with them. But if you know it, or someone around you can just put that back into place when you get there, then it can start regrouping that. I know when I have attended births that needed to be a cesarean birth, after the baby comes out, and then after the mother is in recovery and we can get the two of them back together again, I often will say to them, close your eyes. And we put the baby between the mother's legs, and we have everything off of them. Sometimes they have a diaper on, depending on what's going on with the staff. And I tell them about the fact, and I walk them through kind of this visualization of pushing and feeling that burning and stretching and feeling that pressure in their bottom and feeling their baby's head. And I have them reach down and feel their baby's head. And then they push the rest of the baby out. They sit, they put their heads up, they reach out, they pick their baby up, and they bring their baby up onto their chest to start that neurological programming that got interrupted. That moment starts the baby in the same process. It says, oh, there we are. Let's see if we can find that rhythm again. Sometimes it may be an adoption or a surrogacy, and you don't have the baby right away. Fine. Come back to basics. Bring it back to where birth would have started, and start it again, and let the baby start that pattern. Let you as the birth giver start that pattern. Clear the room and be together as a family, skin to skin, and take the time to be able to integrate that. Now, those first few moments of birth, that golden hour, stretch it out, all right? What interventions, what interruptions are necessary for health, for safety, right? And weighing them is not essential if baby and mom are doing all right. Those things are not essential. Listening to a baby's lungs if they're crying and they're doing things and they're starting to root, okay, it can be done if necessary and if it's important to interrupt. But the interruption should be as minimal as possible. And being able, I have done a lot of birth photography. Yes, I've caught babies, I've assisted with catching babies, and I've done a ton of photography, all right? And there are times when I think, oh, that's an intervention, I don't want to do that. The parents want the memory, and when they can see the memory, they remember just how exquisite that was from inside them, and they don't remember the pictures being taken. That's what's amazing to me. Why? Because their world is focused into the baby. All right, so imagining what you would have wanted as a baby. Imagining what you would want to have had someone say to you, or the people around that space, and how you would have wanted them to feel, to speak or not speak, to have your parents, and how you would have wanted to integrate with them. Take that into knowing you can't go back, but you can go forward. And that means that the babies you have, or even the people that you teach, if you teach childbirth or you talk to your friends about birth, ask them those questions, because many times they haven't thought about those questions of postpartum. All right, so in that first 3 hours, that uterus is clamping down, the bleeding is getting under control, the brain is starting to turn on the desire to care for the baby instinctually, and your body is now, because the placenta is born, the baby has been connected to this placenta, and the baby has to say goodbye to the placenta. Always acknowledge that the baby has to say goodbye to the placenta. The placenta has been there for the baby since it made it. Since very early on in the early weeks, that placenta has been there as its best friend. Acknowledge, acknowledge the placenta. Thank the placenta. Thank it for everything that it has done. And tell people in your space to slow down. Now, I've done a Facebook Live on the pause. You can go and find that on the Facebook page. And be able to understand the pause after birth. But understand what your body is doing. Your body is now getting ready to want to start giving colostrum to the baby. Now, whether you nurse or whether you don't nurse, latching a baby for the first few hours is still a good idea. Why? Because the baby needs it. Your body needs it because that's what creates safety. And emotionally, it helps with that connection, that organization that happens, even in an adoption or a surrogacy. Okay? Whether you have a cesarean, whether you have a vaginal birth, whether you have medication, you have no medication. That is important within the first hour, at most, hour and a half if possible. So the baby emotionally wants to be there. The baby doesn't care about a scale, it doesn't care about the nursery, it doesn't care about blood tests, it doesn't care about other people in the room. It cares about being connected to you as the birth giver. Yes, having moments with the partner, that's great, especially if there's some things that need to be done that are interrupting this until you can get that unit to be whole and then quiet the room down and allow it to happen. Now, as things progress, that milk, that colostrum is feeding that baby. Colostrum is high in antibodies. It's high in what the baby needs as far as sugar loads. It is low in volume. It is perfect in quantity and quality. And the baby needs that. And it needs the warmth. It needs everything that's right there. Right? Okay. So you need to be fed, so feeding you. So those of you who are surrounding this birth giver, it is to make sure that they have the support, that they have abundance of time for rest in between all the nursings and caring for the baby, that they have support with encouraging you to rest, to eat, drink, and nurse your baby. When you have that and you take advantage of that in those early days and those early weeks, it allows not only you to take time to heal, time to build milk supply, time for the baby to integrate. It slows the world down because the world will be there when you are done. I promise you. The dishes, the laundry, the children, the toys, the vacuuming, the grocery shopping, all of it will be there. Even social media will be there when you come back. So don't rush it. Your baby needs you. Your family needs you. Your body needs you. And looking at those first 40 days of really laying in, and next week we're going to talk about the first 3 weeks and the first 3 months and why those things are so important. Because every time that you say, I'm going to lay in and take this time to heal, be with my baby, and really eat and drink and rest, means that you will do better in the future. Those weeks and months ahead will be easier on you. The quicker and faster you get up, the harder those are going to be on you. Now, why I can say that is watching moms who have had 6, 8, 10 kids. They will tell you that they didn't listen on the first few and they were so excited to get out, go to church, go to the store, go to the friend's house, go to the family events, go to the community events. They were so excited to show off the baby. People get sick. Their uterus gets tired and the scab where the placenta was gets tired, it sloughs off, they bleed more. Their bottom gets achy. The bleeding goes up. Their breasts need time to be emptied and they're not getting emptied, so they get lumps or mastitis. I'm here to give you encouragement. Permission if you need permission. But none of you need permission. You just need encouragement and support from your family and your friends to realize that your only job in those first few weeks, and even up into 6 weeks, is to eat, to drink, to rest, to feed and care for your baby. Your partner's job is to feed you. Make sure that you have fluids. Make sure that you do keep resting, and that they help with diaper changing, burping, bathing if need be, helping with other children, and having that extended family to also help so that your partner can spend time with you and the baby and getting some rest as well. So I want you to think about, what would you have wanted for you as a baby when you first came out? Within those first, say, 30 minutes, what would be the most important part for you as a baby? And I want you to put it up on the screen. I want to share those things with others. So begin typing those in for me, would you? One of the things that I see in those first 3 days is that first day is very euphoric. Babies sleep a little more. They need encouragement to eat because they're a little bit lazy. They're used to an umbilical cord, so that all-night buffet, their signals have to turn on to learn that they need to request to eat. Sometimes they need to be encouraged that when they do request, that the other caregivers are not trying to soothe the baby and not give them to the mom, because maybe she's sleeping for 3 or 4 hours. The baby's requesting, the baby needs to be cared for with mom and eating. And every day in those first 3 days, the baby wakes up more and is more and more insistent at wanting their food. And I find that when I give that expected guidance to families, they don't feel like the baby is acting abnormally, because the baby is acting in the right way to bring milk in, which is to request a lot, and especially at night. They request a lot at night, that second, third, and fourth night, because they want the milk to come in. They get more and more each time that they nurse, and they know that. They're so smart, and your body begins to respond to that. But what does happen is you do get tired. So when I tell you you're going to be tired, be okay with being tired, and your baby's going to request a lot, and that's normal. There's nothing wrong. And your breasts are going to get really full by that 3rd day because milk is coming in. Some of it's milk, some of it's circulation. The baby needs to nurse a lot, and you need to rest and nurse and eat and drink and be tended to. And the more that you are, the better things go. The more up and busy you are, and the less your baby nurses, the longer it takes for milk to come in, the harder it is for the baby, because by that 3rd day, if milk isn't in, some babies are a little tired. They're not quite getting the sugar that they need, and it takes them an extra day or so to get that milk in. So the more you nurse, the better it is, the better the baby is, the sooner it comes in, and the sooner those 2 or 3 hours times go by, and that baby is sleeping a little bit better. So you are going through healing, and healing is such a beautiful time. There's a lovely book called The 40 Days, and it has lovely recipes and really reminds you about laying in. We call it kind of laying in. And people who do what's called a real traditional lotus birth, which means that the baby is out, the cord is still connected to the placenta, and even at that point, the cord is not separated, the placenta is tended to, and it is left intact until the cord falls off where the baby's belly button is. One of the things about that is it keeps people from wanting to hold the baby. It keeps the baby pretty much in bed with the mother, and it keeps the baby really sequestered until that cord falls off. And I've had moms say, and I really think there's a lot of truth to this, that when the cord falls off, it's kind of the end of the birth. And that usually happens when the baby is gaining weight better. And that's usually around a week to 10 days. sometimes a little sooner, sometimes a little later. It depends on the umbilical cord. But when it falls off, it says that the baby is usually gaining weight and able to heal, repair, and is able to finally let go of the cord or the placenta if it had still been attached. And the baby says, my birth is finally over. And I think sometimes we really need to take that to heart on the postpartum time, that the birth isn't over until the cord falls off. And that means you stay home, you stay in bed, you stay on the couch, and you really stay in your jammies. Because the minute you get up and you start doing everything, everybody thinks that you're better and you don't need their help and you're ready to go. Now, some moms are like, hey, 2-3 days, I'm done. I got to be out. I got to go shopping. I got to go do things. Resist, okay? Because those are the things that cause your bottom to get sore and the milk to have trouble and the baby to get stressed. And all of those things, I cannot tell you how many times I've had to say, what have you been doing? So lay low the first week. All right, those first 3 minutes are so vitally important to allowing the baby to transition. Everything should go on hold and just be there together. The first 30 minutes, there should be really no interruptions, as little as possible. If you're in the tub, you might be still in the tub. The placenta might come out. That's fine. That's part of birth. If you need to get out of the tub, fine, but regroup as quickly as you can. And up through those first 3 days, those truly are some of the most amazing time that you will ever get with a brand new newborn, where your other responsibilities are being tended to with other people, and that includes other children. So your other children also need to bond with your baby. And I have suggested to parents, because sometimes they have little children and they're not sure that they want them holding them or being around, and they need to go to grandma's house. And I get that they get bored and they can get fussy in that, and they do need others to help tend them and love them. But when they come, they need to bond to that child too. They have an emotional need to be able to know who that child is. So I say, take off their shirts, put them skin to skin, help them hold the baby, help them explore their fingers and their toes. And yes, I know they want to touch their eyes and all that. You have to help them with some safety things, but they need that bonding time. And when they get it, they own that baby too. That means they accept and love and cherish that baby just like you do. And when they do that, they have much less desire to be upset, because it's when we want to keep them away from them. Oh, no, you're too little. You can't hold the baby right now. You have to wait. You know that it must say to them, we don't trust you, and you're not as important, and you can't handle this. And I think that that's a disservice to the other children. So I really want you to encourage these families to be able to really integrate their other children. All right, we've got some messages coming in. Let's see what everybody has said about what they would have wanted to do at birth. And let's, come on. Now, wow, thank you for still going live. You're welcome. Now think about it. What would you have wanted at your first moments after birth? And what would you have wanted if you could create the optimum for a child you had? And I want you to send them off to me. Thanks, Jamie. I know for me, and I can't go back to my birth, and I'm so grateful I was born, and I absolutely adore and love my mother. She's an amazing woman. But when I was born, for those of you who have heard before, when I was born by forceps, and my mother was sound asleep, because that's how they did it back then. And I didn't see my mom for probably about 12 hours or so, I hear. And I was all wrapped up, and all you could see was a little, scrunchy face. And heaven forbid anybody should unwrap me and explore me and etc. until I got home. So now I realize how important that is. And what would you have wanted? I know all of you know in your minds, in your hearts. Here you were, a baby in utero. You're coming out into this world. What would you have wanted in your first few moments? What would you have wanted to feel, hear? Who would you have wanted around you? Or what would you not have wanted people to do to you? But more importantly, what would you have wanted them to do to you? I think that's the most important thing I want you to think about. Because I know many different ways that babies have been welcomed into the world. Some with blessings that have been said to them moments after they were born. Some that were sung to. Some that things were quiet and they were just given the space to be. What would you have wanted? Come on, think about it. Because when you do, that's when you are able to start creating what you would want for someone else. So, thank you, Ashley. Love and warmth and soft, loving voices. You bet. Love and warmth. Because you would want to be where? Where would you want to be? Was it dandelion root? Oh, dandelion leaf that you recommend. You can take dandelion root or leaf. Leaf, it's 1 capsule per month you are pregnant. With root, it's half that amount, so every 2 months. Feeling love and warmth, where is that? Describe it. Are you in your mother's arms, your parents' arms? Are you held in their hands? Are you in water? Are you snuggled up under their chin or their cheek? Are you listening to their heart? Are you feeling them stroke you? Do you have blankets on you? Are you being dried off? Are you being taken to a warming table? Are there other people holding you? I think many of you could answer these questions, and sometimes it's eye-opening. Now, many of you that join me on here, you may have had your babies, some of you at home, birth centers, or even hospital. And remember that it's okay when you are talking with other people who are pregnant or planning to be pregnant, or they've been pregnant before and had births that were wonderful, or maybe they were challenging. And asking them a question that makes them think is always easier than telling them what they should do. Because even if you had a birth and with your baby that was just exactly what you wanted, they may not have. Their story may have been different. Many years ago, I did a little class at a place here, not here, I'm in Florida right now, but in Sacramento. And it was a childbirth class for some families that were in some of the programs, that were in the county programs. And I asked them a question. I said, if no one was there, what would you do if your baby was going to come out? Their first answer was, well, I would have called the nurse or the doctor to come in. And I said to them, there aren't any. There are no nurses, there are no doctors. What would you do? And they looked at me with like this blank look on their face, just dumbfounded. They weren't sure what to do at that point. And then finally one of them said, I guess I would pick up the baby. And that's really what I wanted them to know, was even though you have care providers that are there to ensure safety and to support you, birth happens for you, right? And so does postpartum. And so when you think of postpartum as the moments after birth, postpartum is as much yours as it is giving birth. And those first 3 hours, first 3 days, and on are the same. So Ashley, on my mom's chest with my dad's holding my mom with a hand holding me. Oh, I love that. In fact, those are my favorite pictures. That's probably some I took with you, is seeing the partner behind the mom holding, or the birth giver holding, with the partner holding both of them, huh? Yeah, that you're enveloped with each other. I mean, it's an amazing time of love and joy and celebration and relief and progression in life. And it's part of the change that's happening from the womb inside to the womb outside, right? Yeah. All right, come on. I know you can think of this. I haven't missed out the first hour of this life. You know what, Anna? It's taped. Just go on Facebook. You can watch it. So for me, yes, it is wanting, each and every baby to be snuggled up in its parents' arms. That's where I want those children to be, because that's really what motivated me as a midwife, was to make sure that they were in a parent's arms and that they were as least intervened in that process as safety would allow, which most of the time meant don't touch them, don't bother them, let them integrate with their family, and keep it simple. Because as a parent, you've grown those babies so well and you've birthed them, and that coming into the postpartum, the moment they're born, doesn't mean that they now belong to somebody else. Those babies are still a part of you. In fact, most of the time, unless somebody has cut and clamped their cord immediately, they are seriously still part of you, even though they're outside of your body. They are still thriving on the blood system inside your body. So right there in those first, few moments, that's an amazing experience for them to be transitioning, that you're really holding the baby that was inside the womb while the baby is still thriving on the environment that was inside the womb while they're outside transitioning it. And that's why leave the cords alone. Those babies depend on the cords and the placenta to allow them time to transition. And while they do, you're holding them and they're learning and they're integrating all of it, and so are you. And when you do that, things go well. So it's really not rocket science. It's really wise, natural wisdom within your body, within the baby, to just be in that postpartum period, those first few minutes, those first few hours, and those first few days. And stay home, stay in your jammies, and let postpartum be your reward for all the hard work you put in during the pregnancy and the birth. Take it as a time off. Now, I had someone recently who said, I got to get moving. And as I said, take the time. When are you ever going to get that time back again? Never. Take it and use it well. All right, so next week, we're going to talk about the first 3 weeks and the first 3 months. So it branches on that moving past that initial time of being home, being in your jammies, the cord falling off, and getting that milk established, and dealing with that into the 3-week time period, which starts changing. That 3-week time period brings changes in sleep, changes in how the baby is reacting in life, and on up into the first 3 months. And please remember that you have 3 months after the baby that is still a pouch time, right? And we're going to talk about that. All right, any questions for me tonight? Otherwise, I'm getting to the end of my topic of reminding you how important it is. Oh yes, actually, I needed to remind you about slump day. Those of you who have heard me talk about slump day. Slump day is around day 3. And slump day is when you're tired because you've been up a few nights, the baby's been insistent to want to nurse, your milk is coming in, your hormones are changing in order to produce milk, and you can feel a little weepy and even achy, and sometimes even run a degree of temperature as your milk comes in. When that happens, I always say, just know that's slump day, and that's the bottom of the week, and that means that it's only going to get better from there on out. I tell your partners that because you need to know that, because nothing's wrong. There's no depression. There's no, I don't have enough for my baby. If your breasts are swollen and leaking, you have plenty for your baby. And you can always ask people to come and assess. There's never anything wrong with that. If you're concerned about eating, ask a care provider what's going on with that. Your obstetrician, that's not their forte, okay? As far as a feeding baby. A midwife, yes. A doula, yes. But your obstetrician, no. Your pediatrician, they're looking at weight gain versus not weight gain, okay? So asking a lactation specialist or a doula or a midwife is your best choice on that one. But slump day is normal. And I tell you that ahead of time because partners need to know that if you're tired or cranky or weepy or wondering how you're ever going to do this, maybe this is your first baby and you think this is so hard, I don't know that I can handle it, I want you to know that that's not unusual and that it's only going to get better. And so as a partner, I want you to say to them, I hear you. I don't understand what that feels like, but I'm listening and I'm here to support you. Let's get you something to eat. Let's get you something to drink. Nurse the baby one more time, and then let's see if we can get you an hour or 2 of rest. But just remember, this is slump day, and it's going to get better every day from here on out. And that's what it does. By 1 week, you're feeling a whole lot better. So, slump day is okay. All right. Any questions for me tonight? It looks like I've got some wonderful people on here. Please, once this goes into the archives, please just share it and keep sending it to people. The more that they know what we as midwives teach, the less they feel frustrated or like failures or go looking and not finding the help that they need, and sometimes starting bottles and formula when they didn't need to. And you know, I think it's just really helping you understand how many things are changing, how many things need to heal and develop and transition in those first few days, and knowing what's normal. And being able to know what's normal, I think, really helps. I really want to thank those of you that are just starting to join me. I'm getting to the end of the live, and I hope that what you'll do is just quickly zip on in and rewatch it. And if you have any questions for me tonight, I'm happy to be online for just another minute or 2 and take your questions. Type fast. And then next week, we're going to talk about the first 3 weeks and the first 3 months. I have found that if you have people that are there to support you, you're going to do better. And I guess that's why I've loved midwifery care, or having a good doula if you're working with hospital teams, to really be there and be available to answer questions, especially if it's first babies or Your babies are just, hours or days old. Sometimes there's just things you just need to know if they're okay, so that you don't worry, because worry and concern does not help you rest. And we want you resting as much as you can between all those feedings that the baby's doing. All right, well, I'm going to get ready to sign off, and I'd like to remind you to go in, hug your children, tell them you love them, tell them they're amazing and that they can do anything they set their mind to. Bye for now, and thanks so much for joining me, and please remember to share it. Okay, take care. Bye for now.